Hello and welcome to the very first edition of the Blackfoot Book Club. Cue that jingle. No, there's never going to be any jingle. But that's okay because you're there and I'm here. And it's you and me and you and my friend Salvador and a very questionable selection of books right behind me. As you can see, no expense has been spent to bring you this, the very first edition, to celebrate the self-publishing of my very first book in April of 2023 on the World Cup of last year, my diary from the 2022 FIFA World Cup. A Qatari Odyssey from an English midwinter. And I'll just read the back for you. After a decade of writing on cinema and film criticism, this is my first foray into the publishing realm and on my first sporting love, football. Father, son, a match-lapsed going fan, rather than going to the citadel that is Anfield or nearby Goodison Park or Old Trafford, I now view the game through the objectivity prism of writing whilst railing against VAR and the unwanted bureaucratic intrusion this is into our beautiful game. When not watching football, I still delight in finding new films to watch and critique, and when not exploring the beautiful coastlines, rivers and the countryside of England, I can be found in my spiritual home of Ironbridge or spending precious time with my son, who when he sees this video will not believe his eyes, and he will find it all faintly ridiculous, which of course I do. But however, I'll get to the reason why I'm reading the early chapters from my book at the end of the video, but first let's dive in. Dedication for two otherworldly number 10s by the names of Diego and Lionel, and for my three real-world inspirations, Maureen, Patrick and Joshua. Over to you, kid. It's your turn now. Introduction. First, may I take this opportunity of sincerely thanking you for purchasing this, my first book, and for taking the time to read this ramble through 27 days and nights from the Qatari sunshine and the depths of a cold English midwinter. By way of introduction, I have a confession to make. For fear of burying the lead, as the professionals say, as you will soon discover at far more length, I never intended to write a diary of the FIFA World Cup, and instead, and completely at random, I intended to cover France, our cousins from the other side of the English Channel, and only France. 7 games was my original intention, the 3 group games, the round of 16, the quarter-final, semi-final and final, and if France were to progress all the way, which of course they ultimately did, then I'd follow them for the entire tournament. Pre-tournament, my rationale was if France didn't make it out of the group stages, then I'd pick up the baton with the group winners and follow them throughout the tournament, all their victors, and so on, all the way through to the final. But my writing has a strangely pleasing habit of disappearing away on tangential lines, or simply taking a life all of its own, and after writing a diary entry of sorts for the tournament's opening game, I happily fell into a routine of writing on every game I watched in the World Cup I wasn't entirely enamoured with in the lead up to the tournament, but which quickly beguiled me, as I couldn't help but cheer for the underdogs from down under in Australia, or those noisy souls roaring on Iran and Senegal, Japan and Morocco. I also couldn't face the prospect of not writing about football or cheering on my beloved Liverpool Football Club for 6 miserably cold weeks in the beginning of an English winter, where games normally arrive two or three a week, 3 if you count Saturday, Wednesday, Saturday. And here was the prospect of watching 3, sometimes 4 games a day. So I became a part-time and incredibly enthusiastic fan of the Socceroos of Australia and the Samurai Blue of Japan, Team Melli from Iran, the Lions of Teranga from Senegal, the Indomitable Lions and Crazy Cats of Cameroon, and of course, the Atlas Lions of Morocco. As you will soon discover, I no longer have a sporting love for the 3 lions of my own home country, England. I'm a Liverpool fan and it kind of comes with the territory. And to complicate matters even further, I was randomly assigned to report on Les Bleus of France, but all the while, as I'm sure you can guess from the cover of the book, having a not-so-secret love of Les Albicelesti of Argentina. And so frankly and in conclusion, I simply couldn't lose, and I didn't. Thank you once again and most sincerely for purchasing this sporting diary like no other, and I hope you enjoy the ride. Stephen Blackford, 23rd of April 2023. Prologue. World Cup countdown. Allez les Bleus! But will ball number 13 be unlucky for the European favourites? With the Premier League now closed until it reopens again with the festive cheers of Boxing Day, I am in somewhat of a quandary. I'm in need of putting pen to parchment on all matters football, and so I'm going to cover the coming World Cup, and all being well, in my own inimitable even, way. Inimitable, dear me. I'll start as I mean to go on by stating I won't be covering any England games unless they face France, or the team that defeats Les Bleus, or the team that defeats the team that defeats the team from the European continent. I'll explain why and how shortly, but as an Englishman you'd be forgiven for thinking I'll be cheering on Gareth Southgate's 3 Lions. But I haven't cheered on an England football team in earnest since the sun-kissed days of watching the 2002 Japan World Cup on the beautiful Greek island of Zakynthos, and mainly from the Flamingo Bar. It may have been called the Pink Flamingo Bar. The memory is either excellent, failing, or dropping me into a cinematic sex club. But we don't have time for such matters of lurid discussion here. We have a French football team to report on. Editor's note. Stephen has a faraway look in his eye whenever he recounts the events of that Greek holiday in the sun. It was a bar. It was a tedious 0-0 draw with Nigeria to qualify for the ignominy of that Ronaldinho goal for Brazil in the quarterfinals. It was watching South Korea astounding the world at 7 AM in a poolside bar next to the apartment. It was the Blue Caves. It was the playing of pool in the evening with the most beautiful lady in all the world. It was the spotting of turtles. It was the meeting of 2 Manchester City fans whose names are now lost to the mist of time. It was the drunken evenings and the avoidance of karaoke. It was an even more drunken evening as I tried to watch the US Open golf from the other side of the world, in a bar named the Flamingo, or the Pink Flamingo. It was the evenings playing pool with the most beautiful lady in all the world. So to rid myself of my albeit self-imposed quandary, I requested a random number between 1 and 32 from my beautiful son, and he plumped, at random, and knowing 0 as to the meaning of the choosing of this random number, the number 13. And that's why I'm reporting on France this winter in the ludicrously timed Qatar World Cup. My rationale was simple. Taking Group A, Team A to be Qatar, they were allocated number 1, and Group A, Team B number 2, which was Ecuador, and so on with England being number 5, Group B, Team A, and South Korea, Group H, Team D, being number 32. Hence, from 8 groups of 4 we have 32 numbers, and purely at random, and with my son picking number 13, this became Group D, Team A, and so, completely at random, I'm following and reporting on France this winter. If the European favourites, Brazil are world favourites of 4-1, but I'm not a betting man and couldn't care less. If they are dumped out of the group stage, then I'll take my following boots and my wandering footballing eye to their conquerors and Group D winners, either Australia, Denmark or Tunisia. I'll be astounded if I have to do this, but time will tell. Then from the knockout stages onwards, should France lose, I'll take up the mantle of their victors and so on, and then all the way through to the World Cup final on the 18th of December. So that's the plan. Here's the upsides. Suffice to say, at second favourites, my lad has done me a favourable turn. I've always liked the cut of Didier Deschamps' jib. Famously decried as a mere water carrier by France's enfant terrible, Eric Cantona, he's a niggly winner, always has been, and the water carrier role has now become a staple of every winning team from time immemorial, and especially so in today's rigid and formational beautiful game. A water carrier indeed. Now I know next to nothing of the formation or possible starting 11, and I have no particular French love for Tottenham Hotspur goalkeeper Hugo Lloris, believe their central defender Raphael Varane to be slow and cumbersome, but I do adore Real Madrid's Eduardo Camavinga, and I believe him to have quite the footballing future ahead of him. In attack, France have a frightening array of scoring weapons. Karim Benzema, Kingsley Coman, Ousmane Dembele, Olivier Giroud, Antoine Griezmann, Kylian Mbappe and Christopher Nkunku. Goals are absolutely guaranteed from this lot. But of course they aren't, and neither is the possibility of a famed French implosion within the squad and an early exit. I'm selfishly hoping Ibrahima Konate plays a central defensive role, as quite frankly he's a footballing defensive beast, merits a starting place, and although I'm a Liverpool fan, I am incredibly biased. But I get to write a player watch type article on him, and a joy that shall be, so just pick him please Didier, go on please. But time will tell, it always does. So I'm French until told otherwise, and until I can become a Liverpool Red again. Hopefully I get to change nationality a couple of times in the next 6 weeks or so, but I have a need to write, and this horrid, money-grubbing, backdropping guitar will have to do for now. Les Bleus! So that's episode 1 from the Blackford Book Club. Episodes 2, 3 and 4 will follow, whereby I will cover the rest days from in between the end of the round 16 and the quarterfinals, and then the rest days between the quarterfinals and semi-final, and also episode 4 will cover just the final. That's the plan so far. I do thank you for watching and for listening. As you can see with me tucked away in this little corner, this is just a complete solo venture. Exactly the same as a solo venture of printing this and publishing it myself. If you can support me in any way, like and subscribe, I believe is the buzz phrase of today for these kind of things. If you can do that, I'd be much appreciative. I'll probably be putting links to a PayPal account and my Patreon if I ever get that up and running. If I do, they'll be in the links below. But thank you so much for watching and for listening. And as a kind of ongoing theme, wherever I find you, peace and thanks for watching.